As we sit here, and this is the place where you will take the oath of office, what goes through your mind?
What a blessing it is to be able to serve. I've had this chance to talk to family members, people like my grandfather. And back when I was on the campaign trail, you know, I was griping to Grandpa one day about all these hours I spend on the road and how hard I have to work to raise funds and all of that. And he said, don't feel sorry for yourself. He said, your great-grandfather, when he immigrated to this country from Italy, would have never imagined that his great-grandson would be running for and serving as Ohio Secretary of State. And so what an honor it is that I was chosen by the people of Ohio to serve in this capacity. And it's something I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and working very hard to make them proud.
What have the past 2 months been like for you?
Yeah, so the transition to a new office involves a lot of work, and a lot of folks don't realize that. I've been serving in the state legislature, and we had a busy fall in the state legislature, and also working the transition to this new office. The most important decisions I make as Secretary of State will likely be made before I'm ever sworn in, and that is the people I surround myself with, the team that we build. I'm really proud of the team of professionals that we've put together. I'm really happy about the work that we've been able to do so far, and I know that when we start work on Monday morning, we're going to be ready to hit the ground running.
What do you see as the challenges facing the office as you move forward?
Yeah, there are many. Ohio, as you know, is in some ways in the focus of the rest of the nation and the world when it comes to certainly presidential elections. The eyes of the world will be on Ohio in 2020 when we run a fair and clean and transparent presidential election in this state, and in 2021 when we draw new district lines. As it relates to the 2020 presidential election, it is unfortunate that there are some already that are looking to politicize elections. No surprise there. It's become far too common. And there are those out there that want to already undermine the credibility of the person that's going to be serving as Ohio's Chief Elections Officer. What we'll do is make sure that we work with our county boards of elections to run efficient, accessible, secure elections, and make sure that every Ohioan knows that when they cast their ballot, that it will be accurately tallied and will have an impact on who ends up governing. And that's what the job is. And so I look forward to getting that work done.
Secure elections, I guess, is the key. Time was you used to worry about the machines themselves, and now there's been so much focus on that. And part of that is putting people at ease. Yeah. It's seeing that they are secure, and putting people at ease that your vote is your vote.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we're cautious about the way that we discuss elections, and this is something that I plan on leading by example with. We have to be on our game every day. The bad guys only have to be right once, and we'll make sure that we put the safeguards in place, and we'll continue to carry out the procedures that are already in place. There's not widespread fraud. There's not widespread suppression. People that try to say that either of those are widespread or systemic are not being honest. And it's let's be clear about this though, either one of those is not acceptable. We can't tolerate any fraud, we can't tolerate any suppression, but for people to constantly say that both are widespread is politicizing the elections process. And the reason why that is damaging is that it corrodes the trust that people have in their form of elections. We run good, secure elections in Ohio. We'll continue to do that. All Ohioans should be confident that when their vote is cast, that vote matters. Every single vote matters, and it's not me in my office. It's the county boards of elections that really do the hard work on a daily basis to run fair elections in Ohio.
Ohio was in the spotlight this year with the Supreme Court ruling upholding the way we purge our voters. How will you proceed going forward?
Just because it's been upheld by the courts doesn't make it ideal. It's been the process in Ohio for decades, going back to both Republican and Democratic secretaries of state. It's the constitutional and legal responsibility of the Secretary of State to work with those county boards of elections and maintain accurate lists. That means there has to be a process to remove people at some point from the voter rolls if we have reason to believe that they have passed away or moved out of state or out of the jurisdiction. This process, though, that simply relies on inactivity for a period of time and then people being non-responsive to a notice sent it's a little bit antiquated. I don't fault the current secretary or past secretaries for carrying that process out. It's what is laid out in the law, but I think we can do something better. I think that we can move to a more automated process of voter registration that keeps people's information up to date. I think we can rely on things like the National Change of Address database. There are data sharing protocols, programs like ERIC, which is a thing that was started by and conceived by the Pew Foundation as a way for states to share information to make sure that when someone moves to a different state and registers there, that we can then remove their registration here in Ohio. Most people don't think when they move out of state to cancel their old registration. It's just not something that's usually on the checklist that people have to call down to the Board of Elections and cancel their registration. And so with processes like that, we can make sure that every Ohioan that wants to be registered to vote is, and keep their information up to date and reduce the need to remove people. And that's what I want to get to. I'm going to work with the legislature in a bipartisan way to try to bring those changes about.
Early voting is a huge factor in voting now, and we seem to have got it so that it's uniform throughout the state, and that's got to be a comforting feeling going forward, or?
Well, it is. I think that you want uniformity. You want Ohioans in Northeast Ohio or Ohioans in rural parts of Southeast Ohio to have the same access and opportunity to cast a ballot. And whether that's early voting days and hours, I've proposed that the state pay the return postage for vote by mail. A lot of Ohioans have found that to be a convenient way to cast their ballot. Ultimately, it's important that we make it convenient, but convenience alone is not enough. Even when we've made voting more and more convenient over the last few decades, and it's now today as we sit here more convenient to vote in the state of Ohio than it's ever been in our history, there still has not necessarily been a requisite increase in participation. What does cause high turnouts is a competitive election. This is why I've been a supporter of changing the way that district lines are drawn. I think that when you have a competitive election that voters are excited about, they turn out. And I think that we can do more on civics education. I think that getting people engaged and excited about elections is important. And we saw that in this most recent election was the highest turnout midterm election in our state's history. That's a great thing. When record numbers of Ohioans were coming out to vote for governor and races like Secretary of State, it's a good thing for the health of our form of government, for the health of our democracy, and it's something that I want to continue pursuing as Secretary of State.